Hey, what's up, guys? Tukey here, back again with another episode of my Seattle Mariners franchise mode series right here on MLB The Show 19. Now, the last episode, which would have gone up yesterday if you're one of the people who follow along with the series as it's being uploaded, was an eventful one. And it was the type of episode where I never quite know what I want to do. Now, it was the episode where we finally blew up the team. We knew that was coming, and there were a lot of trades that were made. I'm sure you could guess, considering Shane Baz is now one of our starters. But it was over an hour long, and it's one of those type of episodes where it's like, okay, in the past, if I'm just like, okay, here's a trade, here's what I did, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, there weren't any better trades, like, what was the process? So then I can leave up a video that's an hour long that shows the entire process, but then I feel kind of bad about it because I know it's not for everyone, although there were timestamps in the description because we also went through the draft. So a quick recap for those of you who just saw that was a really long video and you're like, yeah, I'll just catch the next one. We went through the draft. It went kind of, sort of, okay. The top three picks were at least half decent, but from there it was a little bit rough. These last three picks were just best guess, so it certainly could have been worse. But from there, yeah, a lot changed. I mean, in the standings, we're 21 and a half games out. It was about the same as of the All-Star break. We're currently in August, so about 3 weeks out. We stopped at the All-Star break to see what was happening with certain players, gave some guys a little bit of extra time to turn it around, and then just pulled the trigger on blowing this team up. So trade-wise, that is everything that went down. So you can see why it might have taken just a little bit of time to do all that when, of course, you're having to look through offers from teams and really trying to decide who stays and who goes. But certain players like Jimenez, Jack Flaherty, who we thought was going to be our ace, Chris Paddock and Lucchesi are gone. Malik Smith is gone. Austin Riley and Jonathan India are gone. It was tough. It was tough to see a lot of those players go because, again, we planned on those guys being the core to lead us to a title. But now it is a new era, at least for the remainder of this season. We're giving some people a chance. The sole survivor from the rotation is Jose Barrios, who's 29 and just an absolute monster. But we've picked up someone like Mackenzie Gore, who I haven't used in a series, I don't think, ever over the past 2 years, so that's nice. We have used Zach Eflin in the past, but he might be just kind of a short-term solution, or maybe he stays because he always seems to be a really good option for us. Magical, even with some of his prior playoff performances. And then, of course, guys like Shane Baz, Pablo Fernandez, and Cairo. The bullpen's gotten a lot younger. Miguel Guillen, Bob Tejada, Pedro Rodriguez ended up making the All-Star game. We still have Edwin Diaz, which, again, is just a really weird pickup. It's still kind of weird that we have him. We also picked up Vander Sierra, who will probably leave this team at the end of the year, even though he's done really well. And then the lineup at this point has obviously taken a pretty big step back. But one of the acquisitions, Jimmy Voorhees, the big acquisition was Cody Bellinger, who is probably going to be a short-term option. I'm honestly not sure where this team goes, who stays and who goes over the next few seasons. But yeah, with guys like Pablo Mateo, who looks like a monster that we picked up. But obviously Prado, Kelenic, Rodriguez, it'll be interesting to see who carves out a spot on this roster moving forward. And just to get you a full look at the organization, catcher-wise, we have some good depth there. We'll see out of the group of 24-year-olds who carves out a spot at the major league level while we wait to see if someone like Eric Hansen can develop. First base, Mateo, Prado, Heinlein, and Self. Not a bad bit of depth there. Second base, we picked up this guy, Warner Sylvester from Baltimore. Despite the mustache, one hell of a player. And we actually went with he and Bellinger over Vlad Jr., which after last night's home run derby might not have been the right idea. I haven't watched the home run derby in a long time. They just kind of got boring, but my God, last night, hell of a show there. David Avias also on this team. Third base, of course, Adrian Serrano's there. We have someone like Robert Ramirez in the system. And then shortstop, you would have seen me move out players like Robert Poisson, I think in Marte as well. As we just kind of decided, yeah, let's go with the guys that we already have. The outfield also took a little bit of a hit, but Kelenic, Davis, Robinson, it's time to see what we have with a lot of these younger guys. It's make or break. And like I said, with Cody Bellinger, we'll see how long he's around for. And a quick scroll for those who care to look, but obviously you can tell by the potentials. Yeah, starting pitching isn't really going to be a problem. And the bullpen is also set up very, very strongly, we'll say, heading into the future. It's just a matter of, I think now, going with these prospects, seeing what happens, seeing who develops, and taking it from there. I mean, unfortunately, as we just absolutely crushed Houston, my God, unfortunately, the real downside is that on paper, we are taking a bit of a step back. Now, the roster isn't horrific, obviously, and you could argue we're playing our best baseball that we have at any point over this series, or over the season, as we lose that series to Toronto. I guess maybe they disagreed with my statement. But as we're battling back towards 500, perhaps the future is bright. I mean, again, we still have guys like Jose Barrios. The AAA team won their division. The AA team also made the playoffs. So the future's bright. It's just not going to be as bright as we would have hoped. But if we have a strong month here, we'll finish above 500, which is a standard that I didn't think we would get back to this season. But it's very promising to see us hovering around the 500 mark. Although, again, we were supposed to be, as the AA team wins it all, which is nice, we were supposed to be World Series contenders this year. And, that didn't happen. So as much as it sucked to see guys like Pete Alonso, like Jimenez, like Austin Riley leave, although I'd say Riley was the one guy where if maybe I have regrets over trading anybody, it probably would have been him, just because he was such a strong fielder. But just the bat for what it should have been still wasn't there. But we are going to finish over 500 this season, which is nice. We'll sim these final 4 games against Oakland. So an 84-78 record, but we still finished 14 and a half games back in the division and 11 games out of the wild card. It just wasn't meant to be. Now, I imagine we have a team going to a playoff? Maybe. Depends on what the Marlins do here. So let's sim one more day, and there we go. So we know we didn't make the playoffs, so this is going to be an off-season episode, as the Angels and Athletics will play in the AL wildcard. Winner plays Houston. Tampa plays Minnesota. And in the NL, it's the Mets and Marlins. Winner plays Washington. St. Louis is playing San Francisco. So again, you would have seen the standings, just not what we would have hoped for. It was a very disappointing season all around. In terms of awards, Jose Barrios won the Cy Young, and we didn't even make the playoffs. Oh my God. Ryan O'Hearn had an unbelievable season. He wins AL MVP. Andujar wins it for the Marlins. 120 RBI for him. Good Lord. Barrios wins back-to-back Cy Youngs, which again is so disappointing, as Jameson Taillon also wins back-to-back. Batting title to Mike Trout and Jesse Winker. Reliever of the Year, Corey Oswalt and Raisel Iglesias. Rookie of the Year, Dustin May, whose face is a nightmare. Good Lord. And Leo Delgado. Hank Aaron Awards to Juan Soto and Mike Trout. And from there, did we take home anything else? Not looking like it. No Gold Gloves. Any Silver Sluggers? Doesn't look like it. And hey, Cody Bellinger takes home a Silver Slugger. So we have that going for us, even though we can't really claim that he was ours for the majority of the season, as Barrios led in ERA and WHIP, which is just great. And then the home run leaders for the hell of it. O'Hearn, the only guy to hit 50. Not too bad. So taking a look at how this team finished the season, Barrios again 16-5, an absolutely phenomenal season. We have him locked up to that long-term deal. He's going nowhere unless his numbers start to slip. Mackenzie Gore finished the season with a losing record. It was just his second season in the pros, but the ERA is solid. The FIP is solid as well. The good thing is, too, hopefully it stays this way. He doesn't expect to be the ace, which is going to, at least be a positive on the morale. He also has 3 years, 3 arbitration years coming up, so the contract control is ridiculous. Zach Eflin finished with a great record, and again, if we want to keep him, we can. The only reason why we wouldn't is solely because of the prospects that we have and whether or not we decide it's better to let some of these guys get to the majors. And that was one of the reasons I almost didn't trade for him. I wanted to call it Fukumoria, but decided to let him finish out the year in AAA. But when you have guys like Shane Baz, who admittedly didn't exactly make the biggest impression on us this year, with the games he was given. Pablo Fernandez was a little bit better through the 89 innings of work that he had, although, Jesus, time will tell. It's going to be interesting to see if we keep someone like Eflin again when we have certain prospects who are going to be battling. I mean, you would have seen how good the starting pitching depth was, pretty much all A's and B's except for one C. It's ridiculous. It's still far, far too easy to just load up on starting pitching talent. But we'll see what happens. Joey Gerber was someone who was on the fringe as to whether or not we'll be keeping him. Decent chance he ends up going. But again, a lot of these younger guys, Guillen, Tejada, Rodriguez, Sierra was great this season, but he's 32, so we'll probably just let him walk, see if we can get compensation for him. If he stays, then I'm not against it. And then Edwin, I mean, also at 30 years old, again, tremendous season for him after joining from Washington. But I'm not sure if he stays, really. And then lineup-wise, Jimmy Voorhees, who we acquired. It was his first season, and we may have picked up a gem here in all of those moves. Ungodly numbers, and would have finished as the Rookie of the Year had he had more at-bats, no doubt about it. Contract control for him as well. Ray Mitra, who we are continuing to stand by. At the plate, not the greatest year, but I'm standing by this guy for sure. I mean, he'll be on a good contract for us for a while. Cody Bellinger, I mean, he's Cody Bellinger. At least he was this season. It was his best season since we started this franchise, funny enough. So I'll be intrigued to see if he stays there. In fairness, the Dodgers did sign him to one of those backloaded contracts. I certainly would like to get rid of him within the next 2 seasons to 3 anyways, so maybe it's for the best to move on from him. Pablo Mateo was another one of those big pickups for us, and really liking this guy, especially with that attribute spread. The durability is terrible, but we're in a DH league. Adrian Serrano ended up getting some playing time, not a ton, so not exactly enough to judge him, but he's only 20, so he and Ray Mitra, core members of this team, I would think. Jared Kelenic was given another opportunity, but just he doesn't have it at the plate. He just doesn't, or at least right now he doesn't. So I don't know how many more chances he gets. Julio Rodriguez, I mean, kind of the same thing, just the bat really wasn't there. A good fielding option, lacks a little bit of speed though. Miguel Amaya, he has a lot of competition for that main catcher spot. It was his first full season here and wasn't overly impressive, a 303 on base. And Gabe Little, his first season, not overly impressive at the plate either, but still just 22. So we'll see. Nick Prado, it was decent once we gave him an opportunity. We'll see how this roster shapes up as we move on. Now, quickly, what I wanted to take a look at would have been some of the players that we got rid of. The problem is I can't remember where I sent half of them. Jack Flaherty finished the season with a 3.51 ERA. It still might have been the better decision to let go of him, even though, again, I wanted him to be the ace. But if it came down to him or Barrios, I think we made the right choice, all things considered. I'm trying to remember where we dealt some of these other guys. I know we made the deal with Baltimore. We got rid of Luis Urias, which might not have been the right choice, but I went with some of the younger guys because he's due for a big contract already. So that was the main decision there. Jimenez finished the season in poor form, which isn't surprising. I'll be intrigued to see if the Padres pay him, and they probably will. Better them than us is my response to that. Austin Riley finished the season, again, in pretty disappointing fashion. One more year at $7.2 million. I'd rather he be their problem. And Ubiashi, who I really liked, but I think, we try to develop the younger guys that we have and see if anybody can get up to his level. At the very least, I'd like to think they would get to his level where he's been. Paddock finished with a 3.67 ERA. And the FIP rating was, again, a bit of a deciding factor in saying, okay, some of these underlying numbers aren't great, especially, too, he's due for a big-time contract. And Joey Lucchesi, I mean, he's 30. The ERA is strong. I mean, again, not bad, but at 30 years old, it's like, okay, let's get the best value out of him now before that contract really starts to take a hit on what his value is. So aside from that, I don't think I'm missing any of the big names. If I am, let me know. And at the very least, this kind of gets you a look at what the top players on each team are. Malik Smith, though, is someone I did want to take a look at. And I mean, still had a pretty damn good season, but the same thing. He's 30 years old. I don't think will be competitive, and it's just better to get the most out of that contract now before it starts to affect his trade value. And Pete Alonso, just despite what he did in the Home Run Derby in this series, he hasn't been great. So again, I think we made the right decision to move on from him. It's a damn shame it didn't work out, but we made the right choice, I'd say. All things considered. With the exception, you want to talk about making the right decisions in this series, not getting Joey Gallo, that kind of killed this team, I think. So there we go. That is the end of this season. Let's sim to the postseason. The winner of the World Series, the New York Mets. Hell has frozen over. The Mets have won a thing. They swept the Twins in the final. Fairly ridiculous, as they also swept Washington and beat St. Louis. Man, so they only lost one game en route to a final, which is ridiculous. Dilson Herrera was MVP. Postseason MVPs Chris Taylor and Anthony Rizzo. So the Mets, who we had just looked at, funny enough, are champions, led by Jamison Tyon. I mean, it's a pretty decent roster. Starting pitching certainly up there as well. So the Mets win the whole shebang. Hell freezes over. And now we look to move on to yet another offseason where, except this time, we have a little bit more optimism, I would say, instead of, oh my God, what are we going to do with these underperforming players yet again? So I'm feeling pretty good. No Hall of Fame inductees this time out. Vander Sierro, I mean, we can't even make a qualifying offer. I'm going to let him go. I mean, no doubt he's a decent option, but when we have this much young talent who will be making a push, it's better to let him go. So it has to happen, but again, he's not bad. But with Gerber, Guillen, Muller, Luciano, Miro, and then all of the closers, he's got to go. And actually, as it is, we kind of gotta clear this out a little bit. So let's do that. We'll take a look here. Jimmy Hughes is gonna go. Mendoza is gonna go. I think Roman Kessler is also going to be on the way out, or not. He is signed to a decent contract. We'll probably look to trade him, though, as he's behind the likes of Naylor, Ziegler, and Amaya. Obviously, Elliott Valentine and a lot of the other guys that we signed at the beginning of the season are going to be let go. We'll get rid of them now, just that we don't have to worry about accidentally signing anybody. Juan Valido will be cut. Cesar Izturis will be cut as well. So second base, again, decent amount of depth there. Larry Breezewa, I think we're going to drop if we can. And we'll also get rid of Herrera, just to make sure that our top guys can get the playing time in Double and Triple A that they need to get. Sammy Hernandez, we're going to drop for now. Might bring him back. Jim Goodwin and John Boone on the way out. Thomas Jones in left. I don't even remember getting that guy, but he's obviously gone. All of these guys are fine. We'll see out of that mess who ends up making the roster. Robbie Lacey, we can drop. Ariano, I'm going to drop. Nothing too special. Newstrom, also gone. Pretty much all these guys are gone. Although this rookie we just signed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'll keep him. I mean, 19 and 67. That's not too bad. I mean, we're going to need some depth options and likely changes to come with the outfield spots. And in terms of starters, I mean, Dave Tyler, we're going to drop. There's just no space. And even Salem, he's not that bad. But, okay, we'll keep him for now as opposed to getting rid of him. But we have some starters here that are starting to get up there in age that are towards the low end. Kirkpatrick mainly, who will be dropped. So Sierro is gone. And some of these other guys may be on the way out as well, but for now we'll leave it. Actually, Perkinson can go, and everybody else can stay for now. Ruben Miro likely to be traded or let go. And then closers, it's just Harry Jones that we're going to be dropping. Yeah, whatever, we'll pay him. Just get off my roster. Even though we're likely to bring someone like him back, just for now, get off my roster. So in terms of staff, we need to hire everybody except a pitching and a first base coach. Dave Roberts is available, and Dave Roberts we will go after. He was younger than Chang as well, so $34 million, that's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. Let's go up to 35. Whew, man, he wants some money. Let's go up to $40 million over 4 years. $10 million a year, damn it. Come on down, Dave, we need you. Hitting coach is going to be Tom Mackey. Obviously the loss to drag bunting, but that's nothing. That is nothing. So yeah, Tom Mackey, he's 64, but he is the target. We'll go $8 million over 4 years. That should be enough. Double dollar signs for Tom Mackey. I just noticed that glitch. That's so weird. Third base coach and a farm director. So the blocking, that's not a negative I'm willing to take. Arm strength for Alex Cora, not really a negative that I'm willing to take. The minus to stealing, but you get the boost to speed. That's not great either. -1 arm accuracy. Unlike with bunting, there are really no negatives I want to take. So we'll go after Rick Anderson. And yeah, let's go 1.3 a year. And then the farm director, I think Chang's the guy. So let's bring in Brooks Chang as the farm director. We'll pay him $2 million a year, and that should do it. So if we get everybody there, the staff is going to be top-notch. Chang is on. Roberts is on. Anderson is on. Mackey's on. Perfect. As we lost a couple of people to waivers, but that's fine. We were letting go of them anyway. So we have a top-notch coaching staff. No doubt about it. So feeling pretty good about that. And only one guy is in danger of leaving over the next year, and that is Chris Woodward. So let's go ahead and move on to free agency. And let's see what we are dealing with now. We do have to add quite a few people to the 40-man, but we should have space. So Batista, Leahy, Nakayama, and Flores. Let's take a look. So Leahy has to be added. That wasn't Fukiori. It was Nakayama and Batista, and hopefully Flores was there as well. That's a bit of a rough one. Yeah, we have a full 40. We're gonna have to deal some people now. The problem is, or at least soon, the problem is we need to wait for a lot of teams to sign some players so that we actually have trade options. So for now, let's just try to get everybody signed. So Pedro's coming back for sure. We'll go 3 years at 3.8. We'll have to pay him a little bit more. Let's just pay him a little bit more to make sure he's happy. Joey Gerber, we'll go 3 years at 2.5. He's at a severe risk of being traded. He was one of the guys I was gonna trade, but gave him a little bit more time to try and turn it around. Can't say I was overly impressed with his numbers at the end of the season. So decent chance he's on the way out. And then in terms of pure contracts here, the good thing is, again, there's nobody here that I have to worry about accidentally signing. But Ziegler, odds are he's going to be in the majors next year, so we're going to pay him a decent amount. I mean, it's going to be he or Bo Naylor. Good thing is, I mean, Naylor we can lock down for $950. And then Eric Hansen, I doubt he ever develops, but I'm intrigued. I want to hold on to him to see if he does. First base, Pablo Mateo, who again, super intrigued, super excited to see what he can do next year. Heinlein, there's a decent chance he could be the backup first baseman, but he himself will probably spend at least one more year in double and triple. Second base, Gabe Little. Get him at 3 years for 1.2. Warner Sylvester is, I mean, major league caliber already. And you know what? We're actually going to pay him a little bit more just in case we call him up. There's a decent chance of that. David Avias will bump up 1.1. That's not looking too good. He might be on the way out. Ramirez will pay a little bit. Shortstops, Jimmy Voorhees. Intrigued to see what he can do for a full season. We'll go for the renewable. Rich Rocha. I mean, see potential, but I mean, God, man, he wants a platoon role too. Richie boy, you know what? I'm not even going to trade you. I'm just going to get rid of you. I'll spare the AI. I'm just going to get rid of you. The fact that you want a platoon role, that's not going to happen. So screw it. I'd rather just get rid of you than have to re-sign you and then deal you. So yeah, you can just go. Peterson, we'll give you $100K. In center, Robinson. We'll be looking at 3 years, about $800K. Cabello, also potentially on the way out. Pay him about $1 million. And right, Julio. We'll go about $1 million. And Rick. Good old Rick. We'll sign him. The relievers, Williamson, I think we cut, right? No, we didn't. That was the other Williamson. We'll go 3 years at $1 million. Bruno Guevara, 3 years at about 900. Merle, good old Merle, still has the top name, I think, on this roster. Merle Willingham, the Willingham. Looking pretty good. Jack Rudolph, big fan of Jack Rudolph. Chet Watson, who, the eyebrow game is on point for Chet. Anthony Gonzalez, who, should be an absolute monster in the future for us. Relievers, Von Muller. So you see the issue that we have here. At the very least, I'd rather have this issue of, wow, we have a lot of players who deserve a starting spot, instead of, wow, we have guys who should be superstars that can't hit a baseball. It's a little bit nice. It's a little bit more of a friendly issue for me, as opposed to the soul-crushing depression of watching Eloy Jimenez not perform and knowing that he set our franchise back a couple of years. Kinda sucks. Mackenzie Gore. Oh, man. See, here's the issue. He does want to be the ace, which isn't necessarily an issue, but if that knocks down his morale and he's underperforming and he's not happy about the pay, which he won't be, then it gets to be just a tad bit of an issue. But obviously having two players who are, the caliber, starting caliber like that, leading the way is the ace. Not a bad way to go. Pablo, you're getting way too much money. Fukumori is certainly going to be on the Major League roster this year. A little bit worried that he's not a strikeout artist, but everything else is tremendous. Sandy Gaston might be traded. So many of these guys where it's like, okay, here are the overalls. Here are the guys that want to be Major League caliber. How many of them do we want to bury? Because certain players, if you bury them, you could stunt the development a little bit. So I think a lot of these guys will be looking to move on from. Nakayama might be one of them. That home runs per 9 rating is brutal. Don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the background. You might have been able to hear that one. The old puppy snoozes. Don't know what the dog's dreaming of. But, hey, I'm not going to judge. Not going to judge. Damon North, looking like an absolute monster that we picked up in one of the trades. Obviously, won't be rushing him to the Major League. Enrique Flores digging the glasses, man. But get blue trim on that. It'll look better. It'll look better. Color-coded, man. Color-coded. You notice how I've kind of... Well, then again, I level out the audio, but I have certainly dropped the tone of my voice because I don't want to disturb the dog's sleep. I'm that kind of person. Okay, so we have sent out every contract offer. The question over free agency, where there are some very big names in free agency, is certainly up there. And you know what? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. No promises that we do anything crazy here, because you look in here. Let's start with catchers. We have Amaya, we have Ziegler, we have Naylor. Francisco Miella was someone that I was very tempted to trade for. The issue is, again, at the plate, it just hasn't been there, and he's looking for $30 million a season. I can do the 15-year backloaded deal, but even then, he's not worth it. And we had that issue with him in the Toronto series where he just couldn't hit, and that was last year on 18. So I'm not intrigued. And then Danny Jansen, same thing. He's just not a threat at the plate, and I'm not going to pay someone $15 million or even 10 on a backloaded deal when I could probably get the same level of hitting out of these younger guys, but maybe if we develop them, they actually, hey, guess what? We find out that they can hit. So we're not going to be going with anybody there. That's just not worth it. We're going to take the development approach rather than just trying to sign someone or really even trade for someone and fix the issue. At first, we have Mateo, Prado. There's a lot of depth there. And obviously, all the big-time first basemen that are available are all older, so that's not going to be a thing. And we also don't really have any good prospects available. At second, Hampson at 30 is not bad, but we have Gabe Little, we have Warner. So we don't need Fletcher, we don't need Wendell, we don't need Hampson, we don't even need Luis Urias, who, again, I let go. I acquired him from San Diego and then flipped him to Baltimore. I'm not paying him $15 million a season. That's just, I mean, maybe, but I'm just not doing it. And Gurriel's there as well. So in terms of any prospects, do we have anybody? The answer appears to be no. And yeah, because Castilla was a D potential. So yeah, nobody there, unfortunately. Not a good year for prospects. At third, it's where you get interesting with Junior. And it's tough to say he's not worth it. It is. I mean, he wants that max deal. Obviously, the roster updates that have been out since, he actually has a more realistic look to him. He still just looks hilarious in this, and I kind of love it. But I don't know, man. Between Devers isn't worth the big money just because the bat isn't there. Junior's worth it, but I'm going to hold off. We're going to stick with the younger guys that we have. We're going to watch them develop and hopefully turn into the players that can lead us to the promised land. Even though guys like Gleyber Torres, Fernando Tatis are there. Although Tatis we were tempted to try and trade for. But again, the numbers aren't phenomenal like you would want a max contract player to be. So it's all about the youth for us moving forward. Developing the players that we already have. And seeing where we go because of it. Although, even then, the outfield's the interesting one. I do want to look at Gleyber Torres. Yeah, I mean, again, the bat's just not there. Juan Soto is someone who I was looking at. Is he worth a max contract? Probably. But we have Kelenic, Davis, Rodriguez, Robinson, or not Rodriguez, Dominguez, and Robinson. That's the one guy where I'm like, yeah, that could be worth it. Because obviously we know Jimenez isn't. But yeah, Juan Soto could be worth it. He could be. And that might be the one guy, actually, out of all of this, because we have the money to spend. That might be the one guy that we go for. Now, if we go for Soto, and say we keep Bellinger between Kelenic, Davis, Dominguez, Robinson, I mean, who stays, who goes, because I do know that Dominguez and Robinson want to play at a major league level. So Soto's the interesting one. We would have to use the 15-year backloaded deal to really make that work and to make that be worth it. So we'll take a look. I already looked through shortstop prospects, right? I'm going to stop looking for prospects because there aren't any good ones. In center, there's nobody that I want. Nick Senzel's there. I mean, the bat in the prior few seasons were solid. Honestly, they weren't that bad. Austin Meadows is there, who obviously in real life is a beast, but in this, not so much. At least thus far. The outfield is the one spot where I'm like, you know what? Screw the prospects that we have and let's just go for it. But here, let's take a look. Before we make that decision, let's take a look. So, I mean, Davis, the fielding, the speed, the hitting might be questionable. Kelenic is extremely well-rounded. He should be better than what he's been. Dominguez is fairly well-rounded. Robinson, I mean, the fielding is a bit meh. And then Cabello is okay. Would we rather see what we have there or just make a move for another big outfielder? Not to mention Julio's there, who I did not mention. So, I mean, Julio could be the guy. The vision's a bit weak. But Bellinger, Rodriguez, big pickup and left. That could be the way to do it. Or we just stick with who we have, Bellinger, Rodriguez, Kelenic, and see what these guys have. And I gotta be honest, as much as I want to bring in Soto, I never really have luck with bringing in the big money guys and actually having them do well. It's such a rarity. It always seems to be, like the way to success in this seems to be, let your young guys develop and hope that they turn into something. Now, obviously getting Jimenez, I still count that as getting a young guy and trying to let him develop. It just didn't work. So I'm going to hold off on signing anybody there. I'm going to hold off on signing any starting pitchers, any relievers. I think we're good. There's not a single offer that I'm going to send out. I think our roster is fine. It's just seeing what we have with a lot of these younger guys. So it's a great free agent class, but we're going to hold off. Alex Bregman goes to the Rays. Junior goes to Atlanta, of all teams. Nothing against Atlanta, I'm just saying. Junior goes to Atlanta. The Red Sox get Fernando Tatis Jr., Archie Bradley to the Padres. Gleyber Torres to the Red Sox. Jesus Christ, Boston's stacking up right now. as pretty much everybody's signed, or at least the big names. Again, we're going to have to worry in 11 days as of what we're going to do with those other three. Keone Kela to the Rays, Willie Adams to the Padres. It's been the same three teams outside of Atlanta. The Padres get Garrett Hampson. My God. The same three teams are just stocking up. Baltimore gets Devers. Caleb Ferguson to the Braves. So aside from Baltimore, we've just seen the same teams. There we go. Soto goes to the Angels. Huge deal for them. Danny Jansen to Pittsburgh. Vander Sierra to the Dodgers. Really good pickup for them. Jimenez goes to Tampa. Good luck with that. And from there, we still got a couple more days. Mitch Keller to the Yankees. And here we go. We are on the deadline for the 40-man roster. We have re-signed everybody. So with Miro, Flores, and Siegler. Siegler's really the only guy that I'm worried about. The good thing is I can drop Roman Kessler from the 40-man. The rest of them I want to keep. I think I want to keep the rest of them for now. So let me get Siegler on the 40. And if we lose Flores, Kessler, or Miro, so be it. I mean, that's a small sacrifice to make. So we are good to just move towards the Rule 5, and we'll be able to set up this team for next season in this episode, which is nice. Nothing that we really had to do there. Max Fried to the Marlins. Nick Senzel to the Braves. So a really good offseason for the Braves in terms of high-end talent. Austin Meadows to the Yankees. Trevor Hildenberger to the Yankees as well. Yusei Kikuchi goes to the Rockies. What would have been had we kept him? I wonder. Baria to the Cubs. Nothing else doing there. Clint Frazier to Washington. As we go to the winter meetings. Diaz to New York as well. Richie Martin to the Diamondbacks. As we get to the Rule 5, or again, I can't imagine we're going to need any pickups. Chirinos to the Mets. Trevor Richards to the Mets. David Fletcher to Arizona. Jordan Montgomery to the Twins. And that brings us to the Rule 5. So Miro was selected, actually, second, which is fine. Again, we had other options. We do actually have a full 40-man, so I'm not allowed to select anybody, so it's fine. We are good. We are good. Hunter Renfroe to the Nationals. Gurriel to the Mets. Addison Russell to the Yankees. So you see a lot of the same teams. There we go, a new team. Oakland gets Mitch Haniger. And Xander Bogaerts. Damn, so Oakland sweeping in. The Cubs get Kevin Newman. Nico Goodrum to the Twins. Like, you don't see... Like, where are the Blue Jays spending big money? Right? Where are the Cincinnati Reds spending big money as Nomar Mazara dealt to the Rays for Alvarado, Honeywell, and Heredia? I don't know if I agree with that, but the Rays having to stock up because of a ridiculous AL East. And Ciarte to the Dodgers, the Cardinals. There we go, the Cardinals. Look at you doing something. The Cubs get Joey Wendell. Just letting the Cubs have all of the spotlight. What's up with that, man? You got to try. You're in a tough division, a tough league, as we make it to spring training. So first things first, as per usual, do we have any better scouts? And the answer is no. No, we do not. A better East scout would have been good, but we're good on that front. So as far as the roster is concerned, we do have Amaya, obviously, wants to be an everyday player. Bo Naylor wants to be on the Major League roster. Siegler doesn't care. Shockingly. Siegler doesn't care. And then Kessler, who does care, but we don't really care about his development, so it's fine. And then Hansen. So having Siegler and Kessler might not be the worst way to go in terms of having them in AAA to start the season. We see what we have with Amaya and Naylor as the backup catcher, and we're looking good. So I think that's basically the setup right there. We'll have to sign one other catcher for depth, but that's going to be what we roll with to start the year. First base, I mean, Mateo and Prado for sure. Heinlein, Self, and that's pretty much perfect. It's pretty much perfect. We'll have to sign one AAA starter and a depth option, but in terms of the first base setup for this season, we're good. And Mateo is already showing up as an 86, which is great. Second base, this is where it gets tough. Now, Sylvester doesn't care that he's in the minors, so we could take advantage of that. But you could argue, how much is he going to benefit from being in AAA for one more season versus being in the majors? Whereas David Avias wants to be in the majors. He wants to be in that platoon role. We'll see. I mean, I'm going to get rid of him if it doesn't make sense to keep him. It depends on who else is here. Serrano, probably going to be the starting third baseman this year to see what he has. And then shortstop is where we have the issue, right? So if we think that we're keeping 5, so Little, Serrano, Mitra, and then between Voorhees, Garcia, and Avias, someone has to go. And it's a matter of who. So Luis Garcia is a legitimate 80. Good contract control over the next few seasons. Very well-rounded. I mean, Voorhees is certainly staying. I mean, it comes down to Avias or Garcia. It does. I mean, Garcia is older. Avias is, still on a great contract. Plenty of control. A 74. And in terms of the attributes, well-rounded. But that's kind of the tough call, because Garcia is also not in that bad of a spot. One of the two has to go, though, because I don't want to stunt the development of one. I'd rather just trade them to get something. So we have that decision to make between David Avias and Luis Garcia, between who stays and who goes, but one of them is being traded. And then in the outfield, Peterson obviously will be in the minors. But between Kelenic, Davis, Robinson, Dominguez, does Cabello want to be in the majors too? He does. Great. So yeah, that's kind of a good thing we didn't bring on another option through free agency, because Julio wants to be there as well. So we have Bellinger, although you could argue, trade him. Trade him. And then that way we go with 4 out of, think about it this way, right? We have 7 options with 4 spots. So 3 people have got to go. Cabello is well-rounded. I'm a little bit worried about the bat. We have contract control. He's a 73. Dominguez is at least an A potential to Cabello's B potential. We have contract control. He's a 74. So not too bad. The fielding's a bit weaker, but he has a little bit more to the power game. So I'm okay with that. Christian Robinson, B potential for him. Good contract control, a 75. And then Brennan Davis, also a B potential. Good contract control, a 77. And then Jared Kelenic, who we've seen the most of. I'm a bit worried about his ability at the plate. A little bit less contract control, but an 81. So out of those outfielders, again, only 4 can stay. And it's just a matter of who stays and who goes. Same thing with the outfielders. And then for the starters, it's also going to be a little bit tough. It's going to be tough because every single person you see listed there should stay, or at least should be in the majors. Sandy Gaston should be in the majors. Gallegos doesn't care, but you could argue he should be in the majors. That's a tough one, right? Where it's like overall wise, they should probably be in the majors, but they could spend one more season in Triple. Braxton Ashcraft should be in the majors as well. Alex Nakayama doesn't necessarily care, so we could send him back down to Triple, but he's in the same spot as Gallegos, where it's, okay, what is it going to be? Like, are we stunting his development by keeping him in Triple, or should he be there for one more year? I think one more season in AAA might not be a huge detriment to him, so perhaps we send him down as well. Vladimir Batista doesn't care where he plays, so he can be sent down as well. And with that, I think we're out of the spot of, okay, players caring and it not being necessarily detrimental to them being in the minors. So between Jose Barrios, Gore, Baz, Eflin, Leahy, Fernandez, Fukumori needs to be in the majors. Like, that's not even a question. So Fukumori will be bumped up. Cairo, Wynn, Gaston, and Ashcraft. We have room for 6 of them. So with Jose Barrios, he's 30, but he's a legitimate ace. And he's still not going to be overpaid until 2033. So, I mean, he's good until he retires. But if we wanted to develop younger talents, if we don't think he's going to be ready by the time we're ready to win, which, who knows, this roster could be competitive. That's not exactly out of the realm of possibility. So maybe he's worth keeping. Mackenzie Gore at this point, again, has shown promising signs. We have contract control for him. Things are looking pretty good for Mackenzie Gore. Shane Baz, 25 and an A, was rough last year, but we have contract control. He's an 83. You have Zach Eflin, who's 30, and again, solid numbers thus far, but has 2 years left at a very nice $6.9 million. Is he worth keeping? Is he worth, having as what we talked about earlier, is he worth having in the rotation this year, knowing that he'd take away a spot from somebody else? Chad Leahy, 23B and an 82, would be making his Major League debut. Good contract control. He's a legitimate 82. Pablo Fernandez is 25. Decent ERA last year, but the FIP was very concerning. We do have, contract control with him, which is nice. He's an 81. Fukumori, of course, is just a beast, and he needs to play. Manuel Cairo is 24 at this point. And he's had, he has 2 seasons worth of experience, decent ERA, woeful ERA, and in both seasons the FIP rating was brutal, so perhaps he goes, but we do have contract control and he's still young. Cole Wins, 24 at this point, had a little bit of experience last year, and it just wasn't good. It was a nightmare, an outright disaster. But again, we know what to expect from him. Contract control, a legitimate 80. Sandy Gaston, 24. Again, he got the pitch last year, and it was woeful. Absolutely woeful. But contract control, he's a 79. And then Braxton Ashcraft at 25. The ERA when he pitched last year was okay, only 22 innings, and the FIP was great. So you could argue maybe he's the guy to pin as the long reliever this year. So here's what we're going to do. In the comments section below, there are links to straw polls, and no, I'm not doing the icon in the corner because this is way too many options. So what we're going to have is multiple choice polls in the description, I think is what I said correctly. And basically what it's going to be, multiple choice, every player for the outfield and the pitching spots will be available. Vote for who you want to stay. So essentially what it's going to be, now there is also going to be a poll. It's going to be Avias versus Garcia. Whoever wins that poll is who will be staying. But for the outfield, right, all 5 of these guys, not to mention Bellinger and Rodriguez, will be listed. The top 4 most voted for guys will be who we keep, and the other ones will be traded. So pretty straightforward, right? So again, if you want me to keep Kelenic, Bellinger, Rodriguez, and Davis, vote for those 4, don't vote for the others. Hell, technically you could vote for every single guy. But yeah, we'll do it that way. That way you guys can have input, because for me, it's like I think we're good regardless. It's just a matter of trying to get your input here as far as who should stay and who should go. So again, those polls will be in the description for the infield option, especially the outfield option, and the starting pitching option. We might even have another one for the relievers. But yeah, just so you know, all of the guys that we said should be major league level will be there. You have basically all the information on them, and I'll be leaving that decision up to you guys. And as far as the relievers are concerned, we are going to have options. And the good thing is Chet Watson, Merle Willingham can spend another season down in the minors, but that does mean we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players for 6 spots. So we have Joey Gerber, who's a 27B potential. I mean, the last 2 seasons worth, the ERA was a little bit better in 2023, obviously. So was the FIP rating, but last year he kind of slipped up a little bit. He has 3 years at $3 million per before he's up. He's an 81. Whether or not he should stay, I don't know. Miguel Guillen, and of course you get a look at the attributes as well. 24B potential. Got to pitch a little bit last year. Decent ERA. Yeah, the FIP was okay. And again, contract control for him over the next few seasons. Von Muller at 23 years old. Got to pitch a little bit last year. Only 5 innings, and it wasn't great, so we sent him down. But good contract control, of course, with a younger guy. And then Elvis Luciano is 25 at this point. Hasn't had very much major league experience, and when he did, it was rough. But he is a 76. Then we go to the actual closers. Edwin Diaz, we know what he's capable of, but just like with Zach Eflin, is it worth moving on from him? Now, he struggled with New York. He went to Washington for a season, struggled there, or a season and a half, and then we acquired him, and he turned it around. He has a decent contract for how good he is, but is he going to take development time away from somebody? Arguably. And how many more seasons are we going to get out of Edwin Diaz before regression sets in? Pedro, an all-star last year, somehow. I mean, the ERAs have been concerning for him. The FIP ratings over the last 2 years have been concerning. He's 25, decent contract at this point, but is he the guy? I'm not sure. I'm really not. Bob Tejada at 23 years old. I got to pitch a little bit with us last year when after we acquired him from San Francisco. The numbers are a little bit concerning, but still on a decent contract. And he's still 23 years old, so we don't know just how good he's going to be. Bruno Guevara, also available, pitched a little bit last year, only 7 innings. He didn't look that great when he was there, but good contract control for a 25-year-old. And the 19-year-old Andy Williamson, who could be a beast, pitched last year with Arizona, had a pretty solid ERA, an average FIP rating. Again, good contract control, a legitimate 80. And then the last option is Anthony Gonzalez. So you got to look at the attributes there as well. Of course, clutch and stuff like that will be a factor. Has never pitched in the majors. Again, guys like Watson and Willingham we don't have to worry about this year. So Gonzalez up and then Luciano up. All of those guys will be available to vote on. Again, vote for the guys that you want to see stay with the team. The top 6 will be the ones who stay. The rest will be traded away. Preferably, I would say, for prospects who can retool the system, as opposed to being like, okay, let's go out and get another Edwin. Like, no, it's going to be the players that we have here are the ones that make it. And then same thing for catcher. Like I said, we'll see what happens with Ziegler, but Naylor and Amaya are the guys, and then we'll make changes from there. So, unlike in the majority of the episodes, I cannot finalize this roster. That decision is pretty much going to be up to you guys. So, in the next episode, we set up this roster for the 2025 season. We get things underway. We'll cap things off with the draft at the end. But I like where we are right now. I mean, obviously, prospect-wise, it's looking good, as you would expect after some of the deals that we made. But for us to turn the corner into this new era, which is not what I was hoping to do this early on, I think we've handled it well. And again, we still have some big-time options that we can use to go out and get some top-notch prospects from other teams that might just be looking to be a little bit more competitive this year. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much, of course, for supporting this series. Still having a blast with it. Still damn well determined to win. And we'll see if this team can start to turn the corner yet again in the next one. We're showing up as a top 10 team without actually setting up the roster. We'll see if that holds. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Take it easy. Catch you then.